Anatomy and Physiology, an overview of the human brain. Introduction to the nervous system. The nervous system is a very complex system in the body which plays a huge role in homeostatic mechanisms, including regulating heart rate, respirations, and body temperature. It coordinates actions by sending and receiving messages throughout the body. Overall, it allows adaptation to the internal and external environment. The nervous system can be divided into two main divisions. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system contains nerves and all nervous tissue outside of the CNS. Subdivisions of the PNS. The peripheral nervous system is then broken down into the somatic and the autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is the part of the PNS that primarily functions in movement of voluntary muscles. The autonomic nervous system is the part of the PNS and is composed of the sympathetic or the fight or flight mechanism in the body. It is responsible for acceleration. And the parasympathetic, also called the rest and digest mechanism, is responsible to slow the body down. These two systems work together to create balance within the body. The brain. The brain is the central organ in the nervous system, and specifically in the CNS. It is the organ of control for the whole body. It is what allows us to receive and perceive instruction. It allows interpretation of information. Anatomical location of the brain. The brain is located in the superior aspect of the head, or the cephalic region in the body. It lies within the cranial cavity, where it is highly protected. Anatomical description of the brain. The brain is a large organ. It weighs about 3 pounds and consists of about 80% water. It requires oxygen, and after about 4 minutes of hypoxia, brain cells begin to die. It is split into left and right hemispheres and has a wrinkled appearance. This wrinkled appearance is made from something called gyri, and the grooves between the folds are called sulci. The larger the sulci are, they become fissures, which separate the hemispheres and lobes of the brain. The gyri and sulci increase surface area of the brain. Nerve cells and nervous tissue. The brain is composed of nervous tissue. It contains millions of nerve cells called neurons. This nervous tissue forms gray matter. Gray matter is found mostly on the surface of the brain, as compared to white matter, which is the nervous tissue deep within the brain. Gray matter can be distinguished from white matter in that it contains many cell bodies, synapses, and capillaries. White matter is mainly composed of myelinated axons, or the thread-like parts of nerve cells. The cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It is divided into left and right hemispheres.
The left and right hemispheres control opposite sides of the body. This part of the brain also separates into 4 lobes called the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. Each lobe has many specific functions. Just to name a few, the frontal lobe is associated with verbal communication, decision-making, planning, and personality. The parietal lobe is associated with sensory sensations from the skin, such as pain or heat. The occipital lobe processes visual information and stores visual memories. And the temporal lobe is the site of interpretation and storage of auditory and olfactory stimuli. The brainstem. The brainstem is the trunk of the brain, and it is continuous with the spinal cord. It includes the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata controls breathing, along with many other autonomic functions. The pons connect the forebrain and the hindbrain, and the midbrain is the middle section of the brainstem. Injury to the brainstem could result in an inability to sustain life without mechanical intervention. The cerebellum. The cerebellum is also referred to as the little brain. It is primarily involved in coordinating voluntary movements, such as walking or riding a bike. It also controls equilibrium, which is our sense of balance and what makes us maintain positions and stability. Homeostatic mechanisms in the brain. One homeostatic component in the brain depends highly on the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a small pearl-sized section of the brain. Sympathetic and parasympathetic functions are regulated here. When functioning correctly, the hypothalamus provides homeostasis of temperature and heart rate, just to name a few. It also plays a role in controlling some hormones of the pituitary gland. Homeostatic imbalances and outcomes. Homeostasis of the brain provides the main foundation for balance throughout the entire body. Any dysfunction in the brain will result in a dysfunction to whatever part it controls. Disruption can cause disease and even death in some cases. Stroke, a medical emergency. A stroke occurs when blood flow to the brain is stopped. It is the third leading cause of death in the U.S. It can affect men and women alike. It is a medical emergency which requires prompt medical evaluation. FAST, or F-A-S-T, is an acronym created to help people easily recognize the signs and symptoms of a stroke so that they can respond accordingly. Functional changes after a stroke. A stroke can cause many issues. Paralysis, speech, and memory loss are just some of the functional changes that can occur. Paralysis normally occurs on the contralateral or opposite side of whatever part of the brain was affected. It can be hard for them to communicate with others, and loss of memory, short or long term, can occur. Recovering from a stroke. Recovering from a stroke often involves physical, occupational, and speech therapies. It takes a lot of hard work, and it is important to remember to be patient and persevere, because it is possible to fully recover from a stroke, depending on the severity of it. Conclusion. In conclusion, the brain is an amazing, highly structured organ in the human body. It contains many functions and systems within itself. Essentially, the brain is what makes us who we are.